Welcome to BNI Central Maryland's second episode of Maximize Your ROI with BNI. I am Ann Brennan. I'm the Executive Director of BNI Central Maryland. That means I own the BNI Central Maryland region. That's actually 9 counties for those of you who are counting. There are 9 counties in BNI Central Maryland. The ones you are probably most familiar with right now are Prince George's, Montgomery, and Frederick, but we're currently looking to launch chapters in St. Mary's County and in Charles County. There will be more coming, but for right now, that's where we are. So today I want to talk to you about something that is really simple and it's important. It's really simple and it's important. A lot of us in BNI, we do one-to-ones. One-to-ones is a staple of what we do to get to know other members so that we can get to know, like, and trust them and help them build their businesses. And it's in turn how they get to know, like, and trust us. Unfortunately, human nature is that we sit down with somebody, we start to do a one-to-one, and we go off in a tangent. If you've met me or you've met Anastasia, you know that going off in a tangent is something we do really, really easily. What I'm going to teach you today is how to stay on task. Your one-to-ones should be more than a time to sit down and just kind of chat. It should be more than a time to complain about politics or complain about something that's happening in your chapter or in your business. And there are times for that. I want to admit there are times when that is probably going to happen, and that's okay. But most of the time, your one-to-ones should be considered a referral strategy session. We're getting together so that we can find ways to help each other build our businesses. So today I want to talk to you about the GAINS Worksheet. The GAINS Worksheet is so simple. It is 5 letters. It stands for goals, accomplishments, interests, networks, and skills. And I want to talk to you about why that's important and about how it's going to help. I also want to talk to you about how not to do the GAINS worksheet. So often people will two ways. They'll either send it over ahead of time and then just kind of look at it and move on, not think about it, or they will do it this way where they'll say, tell me about your goals, and then they'll write it down. And then they say, tell me about your accomplishments, and then they write it down. It's not meant to be done that way. It's meant to be a conversation so that when you say to somebody, tell me about your goals, and they say to you, well, my goal for my business is to build to be a $5 million business in the next 4 years. That's wonderful. Well, I can't even imagine hitting $5 million, you might say. Have a conversation about that. But what if their goal is something else? We just had a member who completed the Boston Marathon in 2 hours and 34 minutes. I think could have that wrong, but let me just say smoking fast. If he said to me, my goal is to win the Boston Marathon next, I might want to know a little bit more about that. What makes you want to do that? What makes you want to train that hard? Or I might be able to say to him, hey, I've never been that fast, but I do run marathons. We may be able to relate to each other in a new way just because we have that in common. So with your goals, you want to be able to do that. With each of these, you want to be able to do that. Accomplishments. Accomplishments are sometimes hard for people to talk about because they don't want to brag. But I think it's important that we do brag. I think it's important that we do talk about the things that we have accomplished in life. So sometimes that may be something like winning an award, or it may be something like getting a great time at Boston, or it might be something like creating a nonprofit, something that they care deeply about. It might be something really personal. And when you start to get to know them better that way, it may be a way that you feel more in touch with them, something that will help you to really relate to them in a different way. So I want you to think about those accomplishments. What have you accomplished? Plus, I'm going to go off on a tangent here for a minute. It's important that we're celebrating our wins. We should be celebrating our wins. What have we done well? Celebrate them for yourself and for others. Allow them to celebrate them. Your interests, that one's pretty easy. When you start finding out what other people are interested in, it makes it a lot easier to relate to them. And some of the ways that we might do that are. We may relate to them by, we have Brian Loebing in our region who rides motorcycles, right? We just talked about the fact that this guy ran marathons. I actually happen to run marathons as well. Don't do it anymore, but did it for years. But there are ways where we can relate when we start finding about interest. One of my favorites is, I said recently in a training, I said to somebody, tell me about something that we might be surprised to learn about you, an interest that might surprise us. And this wonderful lady who is just, she is as bubbly as can be, but she is a lady about my age, maybe a little bit younger, but she surprised us all. She said, oh, I race cars. Well, how fun is that when you learn something like that about somebody that you go, oh, wow, she races cars. I really have to know more. And it does help you to really start relating to her in a different way. You want to know, did you get many speeding tickets? I can relate to that. Anyway, so you've got your goals, you've got your accomplishments, you've got your interests and your networks. Networks is such a tangible thing to think about. If I find out that we're in the same chamber, that might be something that I can say, oh, well, then are you going to the event on Tuesday night? Or if I find out you're not in that chamber, I may say to you, oh, you should come as my guest to that event on Tuesday night. It gives you a way to relate. Or you may find out that they're in a chamber, or they're in a club, or we just talked to one of our members. Lawrence is actually, we have two members. Lawrence and Russell Lacey are both Rotary members, and they've invited us to go and visit their Rotary clubs. This is something that's really a neat thing that we might find out about you. We might find out, wow, we're not a part of that organization, but we should be. Right? That's something that I would be really interested in being a part of. I belong to the LGBTQ chamber. And that's something that once in a while I'll mention it and somebody goes, gosh, I didn't even know they had a chamber. Well, they didn't until about 3 years ago. And they've grown to be one of the larger chambers in Maryland. So it is something worth thinking about. So when you start talking about the networks you belong to, it could be a church you belong to, it could be a women's group, it could be a foreign language group. I have a lot of members who actually are trying to learn other languages, and they do meetups with people to learn those languages. That's a really interesting thing to know about somebody, and it helps you to relate. Again, it helps you to relate to them. And finally, skills. If you start talking to somebody and you find out, oh my gosh, they're really, really good at spreadsheets, and I am really, really horrible at spreadsheets, but I'm great at graphic design, and they're not great at graphic design, we might be able to find ways we can help each other. There may be ways that we can help each other if we start digging into our skills. So I hope you see, as you are going through this, that there are so many ways we can get to know each other by doing this simple worksheet. And you can be in BNI. You don't have to be in BNI to do this. It's a simple worksheet. Going forward, we're going to talk about some other ways for you can take a one-to-one and get to know each other, some things you can do that will make it even deeper. But this is a great way to start. It's one of my favorite things to do for a first one-to-one, really getting to know them on the GAINS worksheet level. There's a whole other level coming down the pipe. We'll get to that in a few weeks. I hope you stay tuned to this. I hope you will please subscribe to the channel and share it with people, because I think this is an important series for our members and for people who are thinking about joining BNI. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'll see you again next time.